Hello everyone and welcome back to ReeYees Retro Toys. Today's adventure is going to take us to a place called Cash In Culture. This store has several stores around the Pittsburgh area. The one we're going to today is specifically located in Monroeville, in the Monroeville Mall on the first floor. I've been there a couple of times already. It's been there a few years. And I've gotten some pretty cool vintage finds there. I got a ATST chicken walker from Empire Strikes Back. I think I got a complete snow trooper, even with his skirt and weapon, and various Ninja Turtles as well. They've always been super friendly and really great to deal with. So I'm going to take you there today and show you around the store. Another thing to think about that I love is that Cash and Culture is in the Monroeville Mall. And if you are also a horror film fan like me, I'm super big into horror films, especially the classics from the 70s and 80s. Dawn of the Dead, George Romero's second zombie film, was shot in the Monroeville Mall. The movie came out in 1978, and it's considered to be one of the best horror films ever to be made. I would happen to agree with that, along with the original Halloween. And so I'm also a huge zombie buff. So even just getting to go to the Monroeville Mall is always fun for me, just to look around to see if this is where they actually filmed it. So you may see some Dawn of the Dead souvenirs and t-shirts and stuff, because I know Cash and Culture has that. So we will see what I find, and I hope you enjoy this episode. So here is the storefront of Cash and Culture. It's located on the first floor outside of Macy's. And this is what you see when you first walk in. To the right, they have a lot of their t-shirts hung up, a lot of video games and horror and Dawn of the Dead t-shirts. They have a cool one that's modeled after Castlevania that says Pennsylvania. Thought that was kind of cool. Here is their countertop. They have various card games, magnets, keychains, Smurfs. Here's a flyer for their retrotainment game they made called Haunted Halloween. And this one has various wax packs. The left wall is where all of their retro video games are. This is the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System section. Lots of great games here, both Zelda games, Mario 3, Super C, Contra, and here is a close-up of their two Haunted Halloween 85 and 86 games. Here is the center aisle, bookend by Dawn of the Dead merchandise, t-shirts. The right wall of the store has various games, board games, and Star Wars figures. It's kind of a aerial shot of the store. Here is their modern Star Wars boxed and mint on card section. And this begins their various glass display cases. This one, top one, is all Star Wars. Here's some Rambo and the Forces of Freedom figures, vintage Ghostbusters, and various, I think, Lord of the Rings figures there. Here's some vintage G.I. Joe. And this display case is actually all Star Wars figures. They had some vintage back there, some snow troopers. There's a cloud car. I believe they had a Lando and Skiff disguise. but a lot of the figures were modern, meaning 95 and after. Here's some wrestling and some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Loose. That's the box DVD set in the back there. There's a mint on card Make My Day Leo and Space Cadet Raph. Some more vintage loose figures, and here is their vintage Masters of the Universe loose figures. And this display case is all professional wrestling. Majority of it is the later releases from Mattel. There's a tribute to the Troops ring there. They did have some Hasbros there at the bottom. And this is right above the glass display cases on the wall. You can see Box Power of the Force at Snake Mountain. There's their mint on card Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's some cool mint in box giant turtles up there in a collector's case. Scrolling back down to the wrestlers. And here is the left display. I believe there's some Robin Hood figures in there. There's a Sectar, and there are Thundercats figures, some Funko Pops. And this is their Marvel and different superhero section. There's Batman and Robin. And the bottom shelf there is their Generation 1 Transformers. This back wall is their carded in-package WWF figures. They also have a few other newer releases. There's the Retro Ring. And this is the back corner of the store. Has some Simpsons figures, Family Guy, and Star Trek figures in the package. And here was a nice surprise. The attendant in the store told me that they had recently got in a batch of vintage Star Wars figures. So I was the first one to give this batch a look. And you will see what I came back with. Okay, I am back from Cash-In Culture at the Monroeville Mall. And I came back with quite a few goodies. My in-laws got me a $30 gift card for Christmas, so that was burning a hole in my pocket. So I just had to go there and spend that. Of course, I didn't spend exactly $30, maybe a little bit more, but that's okay. It's after Christmas. So you also may notice that the different background, I'm not in my collector cave. It's because I am visiting my in-laws for Christmas around the Pittsburgh area. So that's the reason for the different background. But the videos don't stop and the toy hunting does not stop. So let me show you what I found. The first item I picked up was this mint on card Cyber Samurai Michelangelo figure. This is from the 1994 Cyber Samurai line. Playmates probably started doing something like this because Power Rangers were starting to get big. They made all four Turtles, Shredder, and Bebop in this line. Right now, well, before this, I only had Raphael on card, so now I have Michelangelo and Raphael. But I have the entire line loose in my collection. But I thought this was kind of cool. And another cool detail I like is that, see that? It was from Hills. You remember Hills Department Store?
Hills is where the toys are.
I certainly do. I bought a lot of toys there when I started collecting wrestling figures back in like 93, when I was around 13, 12 years old. So I got that. I was happy about that. I also got a couple of vintage Star Wars figures, incomplete, but in very good condition. I got the Emperor's Royal Guard from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So I thought he was a pretty cool figure. He doesn't have his Force Pike, but you can never have too many Emperor's Royal Guards to do little scenes and stuff. And I also got the Return of the Jedi B-Wing pilot, and he's in really good shape too. I decided to get an extra B-Wing pilot just in case I decide to take my actual B-Wing vintage spacecraft out of the box and display it. Right now it's loose in the box, but complete. So I figured I'd pick him up for whenever I decide to display my vintage B-Wing fighter, which is my favorite spacecraft because I had that as a kid. And something about these two, and something to keep in mind, is that I asked about these. I was talking to one of the clerks, and she said, we actually just got a batch of vintage Star Wars figures in. Like, are you kidding me? So I was actually the first one in the store to get to look at these. Always good to be nice and friendly to the staff. The golden rule, right? Do unto others. So that's how I got these. And then I picked up 4 modern Star Wars figures. I'm a big fan, as any young boy was, of the Star Wars franchise. And particularly the aliens and the creatures of Star Wars. That, I think, is what really captured my imagination as a child. And to this day, some of my absolute favorite scenes in the franchise are the cantina scene in the original Star Wars film and the Jabba the Hutt palace scene. All of those creatures and aliens, and they were actually real. It wasn't CG. It was all done with masks and people in costumes and prosthetics. Just amazing. So I tend to collect more of the modern aliens, not necessarily the human characters. So I got Mr. Ishi here from the Power of the Force line from 97. I know it's not looked highly upon as a action figure line, and a lot of them are collecting dust in people's collections, but I liked him, and I will probably throw him in my vintage Cantina playset. I also picked up Nabrun Leids from 99. He is also part of the Power of the Force line, one of the Cantina aliens in the original Star Wars film. I think he's pretty neat. And then I picked up Mr. Moudama, who, unbeknownst to me, is, I guess, a Jedi, because he came with a lightsaber. I thought he was just a background alien. My knowledge of Star Wars is generally limited to the films themselves. I never got into the expanded universe or the book series or even the cartoons. But I may have to remedy that. But I thought he was kind of a neat figure. So, and then I got him. I just thought he was kind of a neat figure. And then when I researched him, this is actually the Ralph McQuarrie concept figure for Chewbacca. Back in 2007, they did the Ralph McQuarrie concept design series of action figures. So I think that's a pretty neat figure too. Plus he's complete. He has both of his weapons with him. So, all right. But that's what I came back with from Cash and Culture in the Monroeville Mall. And so if you're ever in the Pittsburgh area, keep in mind, this is the little flyer that came in the bag. They have a location in the Westmoreland Mall in Greensburg, the one in Monroeville, and then the one in the Tri-County Plaza in Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania. Great staff and very reasonable prices. They're not full-blown eBay retail prices on these figures, so that's another thing to keep in mind when you're out hunting for retro and vintage toys. So Again, thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel to keep you updated on all of my retro toy hunting adventures. Thanks for watching and keep on hunting.
I see my baby's going out tonight, going trick or treat. Gonna search for the ghouls and goblins to make us incomplete. I see my baby's going out tonight, gonna find someone